Welcome, Brandon Hayes. I'm here with a good friend of mine, Andrew Hernandez Ford. Andrew, how are you?
How you doing, man?
I am well. How are you?
I'm alright, thank you.
That's all right to hear. Now, I know that you have a little bit of a background in advertising marketing, and I was going through my phone and I was trying to find someone, and it was a toss up between either you or my ex girlfriend. And I want to actually pass this assignment, so I decided to speak to you. Can you just tell me a little bit about your background in advertising marketing?
Yeah, so what I basically advertise is Maplewood. Um, Pizza places, people who have up and coming companies that are from Maplewood, just a lot of Maplewood community support.
Okay, so some of the small businesses in the town Maplewood.
Yes, sir.
How do you advertise them? Do you like spread the word? Do you post flyers, social media? What exactly do you do?
It's word of mouth, flyers, friends, social media. Social media is a big thing, multiple platforms, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, we really try to put it out there. I'm part of I'm one person, part of a team of people whose job is really to get the information out there.
What's the team called?
Mapso Juice.
Mapso Juice. So if
Mhm.
anyone wanted to go, they just type in Mapso
Yeah, you can
Juice
look
and
up on Instagram. I'd say that's the best one because you get to have all the good visuals for it. It's you get to see what we're doing along with reading it as well.
okay, so you take the pictures of places, you interview people, you create the captions, things like that.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so since you're big into advertising and marketing, the company that I chose to focus on is Apple. Huge company,
Mhm.
and the way they've been doing their marketing and advertising for decades has just been immaculate. From the 1984 commercial they portrayed in the Super Bowl to just countless advertisements of the iPod, iPhone, it's been remarkable. When you look at Apple's advertising, do you get inspiration from it,
Of
or
course, absolutely, because they're like so professional. Everything that they do is like executed to a T. I feel as if like there's it's so their social media group is just so impeccable that no matter what they put out there, if you lean towards one side or another of like towards an argument, it's you can't disagree with them. They're just like they take such a strong neutral approach and they're just so supportive in what they do.
what do you think is more captivating to the Apple audience? Their social media presence or just their commercials?
um it's tough because they kind of like vibe off of each other, you know what I mean, because their social media presence is more of a constant, giving you an update of how they're doing, on the weekly basis versus a commercial. You only see two or three Apple commercials out of like the year, even though they're like great commercials, it's just the same thing that you see versus social media. You would see a different upload or a different update, in their progress.
Hmm. Now, I primarily focused on the year 2020. You already know, action-packed year,
Mhm.
from the pandemic to Black Lives Matter, and I was focusing on how Apple really uh, handled those two situations, how they had a stronghold on those two situations. Starting with the pandemic, how do you think Apple really put its foot forward? Do you think they did a great job? They could have done more. What's your thoughts on Apple in the pandemic?
I think they did a great job, but when it comes to big companies like that, you can always do more. But when it comes to them and how they did, like they helped create an app to like figure out whether you're positive or negative for like a COVID test. I'm pretty sure they helped out with donating money. On top of that, they thought about their employees, so they gave them, time off. They closed down some shop just because, like, you're a big company, and they know that they make a lot of money. So the least they can do is just take some time off, get some people some quarantine time to make sure everybody's healthy. So that way, when you want to bring back business and start up over again, you know that you're on your best foot.
Hmm. With the pandemic still raging upon us right now, do you
Mhm.
think Apple needs to even kick it into another gear with advertising, or they pretty much did everything they needed to do back in 2020?
I think they did very well in 2020, but we're in 2022 now, man. That's 2 years ago. I think that kicking it into another gear will do nothing but help them out.
Hmm. Also in 2020, Black Lives Matter movement was stronger than ever, especially with the death of George Floyd. The CEO of Apple, Tim Cook, put out a strong statement. But I wanted to ask you, a lot of these high tech companies, big companies, Microsoft, I'll even throw Netflix in there. Uh, whenever something happens, they always release a statement and not a lot of action is done. Apple obviously donated, but people, regular people feel like, you know what, they can do more. They can do a lot more. They can do this, they can do that. How do you think Apple really handled the Black Lives Matter situation in 2020?
Um, it's tough for a big company to take an approach like that, but I also think with great power, you have all the responsibility in the world just to take the initiative and to do the hard things that the people like you and I can do. Like we don't have like a social media page of millions of people where we can voice an opinion or put justice out there and have people read it. If I put something on Instagram on my personal page, only the people who are following will see it, and that's like less than a couple of thousand. If Apple would take an approach to try to, should I say, it's to show where they stand and to support like their, how do I say it? I don't know what I'm trying to say. If Apple's a big company, they can do whatever they want. If they choose to leave out information or to not take an approach towards something, it's totally because they have to think about themselves as a company.
Yeah.
But I do think that Apple could have done a lot more when it came to voicing out about the Black Lives Matter movement, just because it's all positivity. There's nothing negative behind it. So for you to not want to back something positive as a big company, I think that
I almost caught you in plagiarism. You
Yeah.
almost said with great power comes with great responsibility.
I tried to
You
hold
caught
off
yourself.
on that, man.
Yes,
I
yes.
tried to
The
hold off on
lawyers
that.
were about to call.
Yes.
So in the futures, pray to God it doesn't happen. But if another incident happens this year and there's protests, what do you think Apple should really do? As someone who's into advertising, marketing, do you think Apple should go on Instagram and talk about it, or be professional and release a statement, or just stay quiet?
I think staying quiet is probably the worst thing that you can do, especially if there's something that needs recognition going on. Like I said, they have a big platform. They they can release an anonymous statement, supporting the Black Lives Matter movement, saying that we as a community, the entire world has to do better when it comes to something like this. No life is worth less than the other. Everybody is exactly the same. So I think that it is their responsibility to back that.
Would it be better if somebody from the Black community, from Apple, like a high figure, maybe an executive, or even one of the artists that they make a deal with? Because sometimes they make deals with artists and people with podcasts. Would it be great for someone like that to speak up, or do you think that's a little bit too cliche?
I don't think that's too cliche at all, because obviously the people who are affected most out of the Black Lives Matter movement are Black people. So I think that if you were to take away the torch away from them, like what's but that's neither here or there. It could be both, like a white person and a Black person. It could be somebody who's mixed. It could be anybody from any group that has suffered any you know oppression or anything like that. But I do think that if you're going to take that route to putting out a statement, I think that it should be somebody who you can look up to when it comes to this movement.
Now we're about to wrap up in a second. 2020, it felt like 10 years in one, but what did you learn just from the advertising Apple, put out, and you try to connect it to yourself, to your brand? Did you learn anything, like in terms of, okay, I'm not gonna do that, or did you learn anything like, okay, you know what, they actually did this and that, and I'm gonna pick that up?
Well, what I love about Apple, which I'm trying to perfect, is the kind of like very sleek, less is more kind of thing. They can say a lot in commercials just by displaying their new technology and what it can do. They don't have to force you to buy it because they know that they have the content there and it sells itself. So for you to be in social media and to be putting something out there that sells itself, it's what a lot of people try to do is like to be fancy, but if you try to do too much, you're taking away from the object that you're selling. It's you're kind of like putting a twist to it. But like I said, Apple, less is more. They know that that their technology sells itself, so you just have to display it. And yeah.
Yeah, really quick before I let you go,
Mhm.
it's a great point you brought up. Less is more, because even the past, from the year 2000 to 2009, Apple was just dominating with commercials. I remember that it was like a black and colorful background for the iPod, the headphones, and someone was dancing around, and they had the Mac versus PC. It was great commercials plastered in your face. Now it's really dedicated to the iPhone, and you'll see it now and then. In my class, we learned something about purpose washing, and that's when a company pretty much uses. I'll give you an example. Ford for the Super Bowl, they
Mhm.
use Dr. Martin Luther King's speech to
Mhm.
sell their advertising. So they'll go out their way to use something, a great speech, something, a great quote, just to put it in their ad.
Mhm.
If Apple did that, would you look at them like, you know what, that's not a bad idea, because they're supporting the Black Lives Matter movement and they're portraying their device, and they're doing it well? Or do you think that's a little bit too much sugar in the coffee? Like, listen, back away. Those are two different issues.
I don't think that that's bad at all because everybody loves a new iPhone. Everybody wants a new iPhone. That's like the biggest next thing. So if you're to just incorporate a little bit of what's going on now into what people want to see every year, that's the best way to do it, in my opinion, because you already have the people's attention. Might as well just throw in a little bit more.
Andrew, thank you so much for taking the time out to talk to me. I really appreciate it.
No problem.
Good luck on your social media campaign. I know you worked very hard on it, you and your
Yes, sir.
team.
Mhm.
And once again, thank you.
Mhm.
All right.